One thing we know about the German language is that the verb comes at the end of the sentence. When listening to somebody speaking German, you have to sit through all the minor little details before you find out right at the very end exactly what happened. One article I found explained that this means that the German has to say, "At my dad's house on Tuesday, soccer I played." Except that this would be really bad German. The correct word order would in fact be, "On Tuesday played I at my dad's house soccer." On the other hand, German comedian Henning Wehn, who works mostly in Britain, gave this example. Ich habe im Halbfinale der Fußball-Weltmeisterschaft 1990 in Turin gegen Deutschland beim Elfmeterschießen den entscheidenden Elfmeter verschossen. And that is perfectly correct German. Henning explains that this has something to do with a verbal bracket, and then says that he has no idea what that is. So aren't you lucky you have me? First, let's establish a few ground rules. We're only going to be talking about normal declarative sentences, so no commands or questions. Also, we're only going to be looking at main clauses. Subordinate clauses have slightly different rules. German has what's called V2 word order, which means verb second. Most Germanic languages have V2 word order with one very big exception: English. This means that the verb is normally second in the sentence. It's not always the second word, but it is generally the second idea. So we can take a simple sentence like Ich spielte Fußball and it's clear, first the subject, then the verb, just like in English. But start the sentence with something else like am Dienstag and that is the first idea, the verb must then come next. So now we have am Dienstag spielte ich Fußball. But what about Henning Wehn's sentence? Well, he's using a verb phrase that consists of more than one verb. He is in fact using a tense that the Germans call perfect, which is quite common in colloquial German, much more common than the English present perfect. When this happens, German does something a little bit odd. The first verb goes in the usual position, but the rest of the verb phrase does go to the end of the sentence. And this is the verbal bracket, because the verb phrase forms a bracket around part of the sentence. But a monster sentence like the one that Henning Wehn constructed is quite rare. It is correct German, but at least when speaking, even Germans prefer shorter sentences. So the man who missed that penalty, Stuart Pearce, might say, Ich habe einen entscheidenden Elfmeter verschossen. And then he will go on to explain exactly where and when. And in this regard, here's a useful phrase for you. Und zwar. It means that you're about to add some extra information to clarify what you've just said. So, Stuart Pearce could say, Ich habe einen entscheidenden Elfmeter verschossen. Und zwar im Halbfinale der Fußball-Weltmeisterschaft 1990 in Turin gegen Deutschland. So, in a sense, yes, very often the most important verb does come at the end of the sentence. But there are ways of making that less of a problem. Remember, you can always send me a postcard at this address. You can also find me elsewhere on the web. Visit Rewboss.com to find out how.